Okay, now what is meant by transaction control command? So we can using for the only DML statement, the transaction command will be work. Okay, what are the DML command? What is the full form of DML? Data manipulation language. What are the command? Insert, delete, update. The transaction concept only working on the DML command. So this is the first. Another thing, we cannot use the create or drop. So what is meant by create and drop? That is called as a DDL. DDL means create, alter, drop, truncate. This is all other DDL command. So we cannot use the creating or dropping. So just kindly understand, the transaction concept cannot work in the create or dropping on the table. Okay, because this operation are committed to the database automatically. Another thing, transaction state. What is meant by transaction state mean? For example, you can consider you are going to transfer the money from one account to another account. What is the state? What are the steps involved in the process? This is like as a transaction state. Number one, active state. Okay, the end is called as a terminate state. Just you can see the diagram. Just a minute. Okay. So number one, it is a active state. So active state means when we have to plan for transfer the money from one account to another account. So first it is called as a either it can read or write operation. Number one, partially committed state. The first state it is called as a partially committed. Okay. So what is meant by partially committed? The transaction it's not transferred fully. So partially committed. Once the partial committed is successful, okay, the permanent storage automatically will be going for the committed state. What is meant by committed? Committed means save the record permanent. Okay, so then the transaction is over. Suppose in this stage, if you have any other failure transaction due to the server network error, or you are going to enter the wrong account number, or wrongly enter the IFSC code, or wrongly enter the OTP number, or wrongly enter the some other details. So at that point, the transaction will be failure. So suppose if the the transaction will be failure, mean how we will going to handle? Okay, so go for the failure transaction, automatically go for the rollback. Rollback means it is a previous state. So that is called as a about the state. It's a terminate the state, it's going to the previous states. This is also it's called as a transaction state. Another thing, the transaction state is contained, there are 6 types. Number one, active state. What do you mean by active state? This transaction is instruction or being executed, it change the particularly committed state. So active state means that once the transaction is over, you can given as a commit. So this state is called as a active state. If read or write operation are completed without error, if it is instruction is failure, it change the failure state. We can check once the transaction is completed or not completed. This is it's called as a active states. Active state means there are two. Number one, transaction is success or transaction is failure. This state is known as a active state. Next, partially committed. Second state is called as a partially committed. So when all the read and write operations are completed, the changes made to the main memory or local buffer, the state would go to the committed state if there is the changes are made permanent on the database. Otherwise, go to the failure state. So what is meant by failure partial transaction? Mean either you are going to given as a read or write, either transaction or record anything. So read or write operation are completed. The transaction will be process completed, made to the main memory. So after the transaction is over, the total transaction will be reflect on the permanent. For example, let's you can consider you are going to transfer the money from your account to another account, automatically your account will be debited. Either you can ensure, okay, the amount is be debited, the transaction list will be corrected. Suppose you are going to receive your account, it will be credited. In the transaction existing amount plus your what is the credit amount, it will be checked. This state is known as a partially committed. Another thing, failure state. Already you know that what is my failure state. The transaction will be transaction time, if any other error will be occur, it will going for the failure states. A transaction goes to the failed state when any transaction instruction are failed or permanent modification on the database failure. Okay, we need to change the hold the thing in the database. This concept is known as a failure state. So next one for the aborted state. So the transaction move from failure state to the aborted. Once the transaction is failure, we will going to end terminate the state. This state is called as a aborted state. Another thing, committed state. The transaction is completed go into the state which the changes are made permanent and the database also terminated in the terminal state. So once the transaction will be successful, finished. Okay, so this going for the end state. So the end state is called as a committed state. End terminate, the transaction will be success. This state known as a committed state. Another thing, terminate state. Terminate state means if there is any the rollback and the transaction is the committed state, the system is consist of the ready for the new transaction while the old one is terminated. So once the transaction it will be part is completed, either commit or rollback. Okay, the transaction part will be over. It will go again. It will be going to start the new transaction state. This transaction is called as a terminal state. Okay, terminated state. Okay, I hope did you understand the transaction concept. Based on the slide, based on the concept, you should understand what is a transaction, what are the type of transaction, what are the asset property, and then how the asset property involved in the real time, and then explain about the transaction state, what are the state involving. Another thing, implementation of transaction control commands. Okay, another thing, difference between the commit and rollback. These are the questions you can clear. We have to clarify about it. Okay, I hope this session will be helpful. This session will be helpful for you. Thank you one and all. Bye. Hope you are enjoy this session. It will be helpful for you. Okay, thank you one and all.